Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave, your coach of soft skills and life skills. Well, in the previous session, we have read about the difference between what is a biodata, what is a resume, and what is a curriculum vitae or CV. In today's video, I'd be explaining you about the alignment of pages, balancing of pages, font style, font size, line spacing, and the difference between one point to the other point. What sort of difference you need to keep so that it should look very decent, very attractive, and very impressive. So let us start first of all with the alignment of pages. The page alignment in any profile may be a resume or a CV. It should be in such a way that you are going to maintain a proper balancing from starting to ending of the first page, from starting to ending of the second page, and from starting to ending of the third page if in case of a CV. Now, what is the balancing of page? Like for example, a page you have started from this to this bottom, the full page is covered up with the data. And in the second page when you are going, most of the people what they used to do is that they used to complete the data within just 1/4 of the page, and rest of the 3/4 used to be free. So once you make this sort of arrangement, this sort of balancing, it looks a very disorganized profile. That gives an impression that you are not organized properly, you have not balanced your page properly. That gives a wrong concept, a wrong impression in the minds of the recruiter. Always try to make it sure that the page balancing is a very organized one. It should be aligned properly. The margins should be set in such a way that it should look good. And before you prepare the profile, you should check it out that whether that is kept in a A4 size format or not. While printing, you may not be facing any sort of difficulty therefore. Now let's go to understand what is all about the spacing and the differences that we need to keep it in a profile. So continuing further and going ahead, we are going to talk about certain things like the line spacing, the font size, and the font style. First of all, we'll go with the official font styles. The most common official font style is Arial, which is most prevalent in book printings and all. But if you would be preparing a profile and you would be giving Arial, it may look something very decent or may not be looking decent, that one. So in that case, you can use another font style, that is Times New Roman. It is a very well structured, well framed, and it looks also good. It looks decent. So you may provide a font style that is Times New Roman, but make it sure throughout the profile you have to maintain the same font style. You are not going to change the font style. Now coming to the three parts of a profile again, the header part, the body part, and the footer part, which I have already said to you and explained to you as well. So coming to the header part, let us see. The header part consists of 4 points, which has already been discussed. The first point is all about your name, then your address, maybe permanent address or maybe your correspondence address, your telephone numbers, your primary number, and alternative number of any one person, maybe from your family, your father, your brother, your sister, or maybe an uncle who stays in the city who can give you some sort of information regarding the messages coming from any recruiter. And the last is your email ID. So once you write these 4 points at the top and you are mentioning these 4 points at the top, obviously what happens is that after margin from 4 sides, you are not getting the 100% page, rather you are getting 80% to 85% of the page, full page. So once you are getting 80 or 85% of the full page, and with that 80-85% of the full page, you are using these 4 points at the top to start your profile as a header. with line spacing, with font size, all this, it takes nearly 10 to 15% of your entire page. That means out of that 85%, let us consider 15% of your page has gone. So remaining is all about 70% of the page. And I have always said you that the first page of a profile gives the first priority and the first impression. And if you are not mentioning your valuable things in that first page, then the second page, nobody is going to turn and nobody is going to read about that second page. The impression comes only with the first page. If the first page is giving a great impression, then the recruiter will certainly turn the next page, then the next page, and will see that what you have prepared, whether it is an impressive one, whether it is not an impressive one, whether it is creating an interest within that recruiter to read it properly or not, to go through it step by step or not. So all this thing creates a very good first impression. So now let us consider that 70% of the page which is left for creating an impression. As I have said you that the body consists of major points, and in the first page certain major points are really very important to be kept. The career objective is very important. Educational qualifications are to be kept in a descending sequence, that is reverse chronological order. Maybe in a tabular format or maybe in a bulleting sketch. When if it is a tabular format, everything has to be maintained in a tabular format. If it is in a bulleting sketch, everything has to be maintained in a bulleting sketch. I will come to this later on. I will be explaining you what is tabular and what is a bulleting sketch. But for now, for the present, tabular is a box-like template, like squares and all, wherein you'd be putting up your educational details and qualifications, your grades, your percentage, your year of passing, your session, all these things. And bulleting is a point by point way to represent your qualifications, to your other details, all these things. When you detail, just give a point, a point, a point. So this point by point representation is called as your bulleting format. I'll be going in details to that one after a while, right? So you have given your educational qualifications. If you do have any experience, you may represent that one. And the most important is your training, which is called as your professional education. As I've said, your professional education plays a vital role in your profile. Most of the people say that yes, professional education can be kept in the second page. Your training, internships, your implant trainings, all the things can be paged in the second page. But my dear friends, when you are writing like this, most often the recruiter, when he see that your educational qualification or the highest educational qualification is merely a graduate in a particular branch of engineering, then the impression comes in the mind of the recruiter that you have not done anything except this graduation. If you do have an experience, that is a secondary part. If you don't have an experience and you have simply written graduation and all the other educational qualifications in the first page, rolling to the next page you have written your professional education, the recruiter will not have an impression to turn back to the next page and see that what you have written, because the first impression comes from the first page only, wherein you have only mentioned that you have a graduation knowledge and thereafter no experience. So let me just come back to some other things, my dear friends. It is a general HR question. Sometimes the recruiter asks you a question, do you have any working experience? Knowing the fact that you are a fresher. They wanted to listen something more from you. Most of the people used to give an answer like, no sir, I don't have a working experience. Sir, I'm a complete fresher. I don't have a working experience. So this type of answers with yes or no is a closed-ended answer. That means the answer comes like yes or no. It ends up at a particular point. It doesn't give any sort of, you can just say, diversified answers. Creative, analytical, logical answers. So my dear friends, try to understand the importance of a open-ended answer and a closed-ended answer. A open-ended answer is a little descriptive one. You are going to describe the thing. So the same thing, if the recruiter has asked you that do you have a working experience, knowing the fact that you are a fresher, you could explain this one in this manner that, sir, I may not be having a working experience as you are searching for, but practically if you can see from my college time till my training period, every sphere I have worked out in a very practical way, working myself in a project, undergoing a training. All these things are my practical exposures. I have learned the things in a practical manner in a field wherein I have exposed myself, working out all these things in a strategic way. So I do feel that I may not be having a working experience, but if you can consider all these practical exposures and strategic implementations of it as a working experience, then certainly I do have my working experience in the field of project like this, in the field of training like this. Now it gives a positive answer to the recruiter that yes, although this boy is a fresher, doesn't consider him to be a fresher, has always thought himself that he is having an experience of this project works, he is having an experience of this all sort of training, implant trainings as well, and internships too. Try to address yourself in a very positive way. Be honest, that is a true thing, but honesty with positivity is the best policy. Simple honesty is a traditional statement that simple honesty is the best policy, but I have added a little bit to that one. Honesty with positivity of representing anything is the best policy. Okay, let's come back to the position right now. So what I was just telling, the first impression to be counted with the first page wherein you are just representing everything in a proper manner. So coming to this, now the header part, as I have said you, the 4 points are considering in the header part: the name, the address, the telephone numbers and the email ID. Now for instance, all these things carries a lot of space and you are not getting that much of space for that professional education, which is very, very important, your training, internships and implant training to be mentioned in the first page. It rolls to the second page. So in that case, my dear friend, it is a request to all of you that you have an option of skipping the address part from the header part. You can skip the address which you have mentioned. Address generally consists of 2 lines or 3 lines maximum. So if these 2 to 3 lines maximum will be skipping to the next page or the last page wherein you are giving your personal details or personal desire, then certainly you would be getting these 3 lines to represent any sort of important thing that you wanted to mention in the first page. So it is all about your space management. So let me, why I highlighted so much on the space management part is that font style, I have said you, now font size matters more, line spacing matters more. So let's go and let's understand about the font size and line spacing for the header part. So the header starts with your name. No need of giving any title, as resume, CV, biodata, as it is out fashioned completely, as I have said you in my previous sessions too. So your name should be written in a minimum font size of 14 and a maximum font size of 16. Why minimum and why maximum? It totally depends upon your space management. If you do have a complete good space to represent, you can keep it 16. If you do have less space, you can make it 14. Now coming to the next points in the header, that is your address. If you are keeping according to the space management, if you are not keeping according to the space management, you can skip it to the last page. Then your telephone numbers, and next to your telephone number it comes about your email ID. So all these 3 points, address, telephone number, email ID, the font size should be a minimum of 11 and a maximum of 12. Now you may ask me, what is a minimum of 11 and maximum of 12, my dear friends? So minimum of 11 when you are keeping your name as 14 font size, then minimum should be 11 font size. If you are keeping it as 16, you may keep it as 12. So once you keep this sort of font size, then what happens is that this sort of font size gives an impression that your name is highlighted and rest of the other details are kept in a normal font size of 11 to 12. So this will add you to manage your space in a proper manner. But one more thing is there, the space between two lines, one line and the other line. What should be the space? It should be completely zero space or one space, or what should be the space? So the space management between these lines should be such like, you need to select the entire header part, go to the paragraph setting, check it out that what is the setting over there. Now before spacing and after spacing would be a point. Before means before the line, after means after the line. Both the things you need to mention as 0, 0. Before as 0 and after as 0, you have to mention it. You have to change the setting. And after changing the setting of before the line and after the line, just beside that setting only there would be a setting like line spacing. 1.5 double line spacing or single line spacing or multiple line spacing, it would be written. You need to select the multiple line setting option, and going next to the multiple line setting option, there comes a manual page of changing that one. So you can change it to 1.08 as minimum and 1.15 as maximum. So once you are making it as 1.08, then you are automatically getting the lines little closer to each other. 1.15, that means a little bit of gap you are getting between these two lines. But why I just said you all these things, it is all because of that you can create a way of your own representation depending upon your space management to the page. So completing this part, let me just make a recapitulation to all those things what I have just said you. The font should be completely of Times New Roman, entirely to the profile. The heading starts with your name, which is consisting of the font size like 14 as minimum and 16 as maximum. Other details like address, phone number and email, that to be kept as your 11 as minimum and 12 as your maximum. Coming to the line spacing, you can keep it as 1.08 to 1.15. Okay. So after completing this header part, let's move on to the body part and let's move on to the side headings. Moving to the body parts, the side headings that you are mentioning like career objective, qualifications, professional education, working experience. So all these things are called as your side headings. So the side headings which you are mentioning, so that side headings can be kept as minimum of 12, maximum of 14. Why minimum 12 and maximum 14? It totally again depends on the space management. It depends upon you, how you are managing your space. Accordingly you can make for it. And the inner contents, career objective you have mentioned, and after that you have mentioned the career objective. So the career objective that you would be mentioning, you should not mention with the same font size as the header. Rather you should reduce the font size or the minimum font size for the side heading. If it is 12 and maximum is 14, here the minimum would be 11 and maximum would be 12. That means if 14 then 12, if 12 then 11. So this is how you are going to maintain your inner contents and the side heading. Now coming to the line spacing between the lines. So the line spacing between the lines here in this inside body is like this. You should keep it as minimum 1.15 and maximum as 1.5. 1.15 would be very less. If you feel that it is having a space, you have a proper space to represent all the things, give it 1.5 because it could be very legible for a person to read. It would be very clear for a person to visualize the things, and it would be very decent in looking. So try maintaining your things in that manner. Everything goes the next like that, the same. But one more thing I have left that I would be just covering up right now. One side heading is there, like career objective you have written, then the side heading and the inner content of the career objective. After that one, when you are starting with the next side heading, that is educational qualification. So what should be the gap between the last line of the career objective and the next side heading? That is very, very important. So here you need to again select the last line of the previous side heading, inner content, and the next side heading, new side heading. I think you are not getting it. So here what you need to do is that here you need to select the last line of the previous inner content and the next side heading. After selecting these two, go again back to the paragraph setting. Here again you are having that before setting and after setting, means before line and after line setting. So before line setting you are going to make it as 0 and after line setting you are making it as 6. So once you make it, so what happens is that the before line means before the line nothing is getting changed as you are keeping it as 0, but after the last line of the inner content, the next side heading, it should have a gap of 6 pt. So we call it as 6 bits of distances. So that distance gives an impression that yes, a next side heading has got started. So like this you are going to continue the things and make it an organized one. I hope you have got the details in a proper manner. So try to work out with line spacing, font size and the font style. So with all this, today we are going to rest our session of this resume preparation in a proper manner, the font size, the font style and all the line spacing. With the next video I'll be coming up with the preparation phase by phase. Why? Because it is a big one. It is a complete 1.5 hour session, so I don't feel that 1.5 hour session I'd be just recording like this. So I'd be making it like in phases. Phase 1 of preparing a profile, phase 2 of preparing a profile, and I'd be just transferring the files to you so that you can understand it much better. For this, thanks for listening patiently. Thanks for your patience and all. Thank you very much.